Hello, everyone out there in Sammy Land. I hope everybody's having a Sammy-rific day. Welcome to another episode of Childhood Money Memories. Today's guest is coming to us all the way from the United Kingdom, Darren Collins. Welcome, Darren.
Welcome, and thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to this.
Awesome. So are we. You're our first former professional footballer, soccer player, athlete. So we're really excited. Let me share a little bit about Darren. Darren is now actually a qualified independent financial and mortgage advisor in the UK. He's an educator and the head of the finance department at the Sittingbourne School in the United Kingdom. He's a member of the London Institute of Banking and Finance. As I mentioned, he's also a former footballer, I think a player and a coach, and he'll share maybe a little bit about that with us. And very importantly, he's now on a mission to make a bigger difference in the area of personal finance. Darren believes the future is brighter when we all spend a little bit of time, invest some of our time understanding personal finance, whether you're young, you're old, or you're somewhere in between. Welcome again, Darren.
Thank you, Sam. And just for those people listening, we mean soccer, don't we? Not football. I just want to be absolutely sure.
We mean the most widely followed sport in the world, soccer, not American football. All right, Darren, this is Childhood Money Memories. Would you share with us, something from your childhood related to money that's really maybe stuck with you throughout your life?
Right. So growing up, I had my mum and dad couldn't want for love, and it was really good. But we grew up in East London, around Stratford and Newham, and since then, that's where the Olympics took place back in 2012. It's gone through massive regeneration. So, bearing in mind I was born in the mid to late 70s, moved there, lived there all the way through to the late 80s. It was very working class. It was, very community based, and very Irish Catholic upbringing and all that kind of stuff. And then my mum and dad wanted us to move out to an area where she felt that the education would be better. All right. And it was then when I think I got my first kind of, whoa, do you know what I mean? The impact of money, not money itself, but the impact of money and the effect it can have on people without them realizing. So we moved from East London to a more affluent area in Essex to go to secondary school. And it was there where all of a sudden we saw Land Rovers, we saw, kids, in like all of these things, material things that never been really an issue or a social signal that we'd come across at that point. We were just in East London, just happy being part of the community. We all helped each other out, but it was really distinct. I felt it distinctly. And I think one of the biggest things is obviously I couldn't quantify it back then because I was young, but now as you get older, you can. I was quite intimidated. And it was intimidated by the materials. And really that is, I guess, to do with money, is what money can do, or how money can signal to people what you are, what you're not. And almost, I felt like from being an equal, I went to an area where I dropped. But that was going on in my head. It wasn't someone else. It was my perception of that. And it's taken me years. It's taken me a few decades to get my head around that. And that is probably the driving force behind me. And the reason why I want to educate money to people, because it is like this thing where money is in your head as something important, when actually it's just a concept. It's how your thoughts are to that thing, and then what you can do with it by being more disciplined, yada yada yada. I'm sure you're going to ask the questions around that, but that is my first memory of the impact. And it's not money per se, but it's the level, how things change in society based on that. So, and you've got to bear in mind that was late 80s, early 90s when I went there. So, sign of the times.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very interesting. It really resonates with me. It reminds me of when I went to college. I had a very similar experience when I first attended elementary school. It was essentially very similar to what you described. We were in this lower income, working class kind of community. Everybody was mostly in similar circumstances. This was in the 60s, by the way, so way ahead of the 80s. But you knew everybody was working and struggling, and there wasn't any even medium wealth. I like to kid with people now that our family grew up in what I call upper poverty. And so but when I went to I went to grade school and then went to high school. Our grade school had a middle school. Everybody wore uniforms, so even there at that middle school, grade school, you had kids coming from different areas, but largely similar. But because you had the uniforms, you really couldn't tell what the differences, say, in income were. Now, maybe a little bit because they drop kids off there in the morning. And so sometimes you might see the other people's cars. And as a kid, as you said, you have this perception that doesn't have any context. And it can be very intimidating. At high school, we had a little bit more of that, but at college is where I started seeing the Land Rovers, the Porsches, and things of that nature. And I'm glad you shared that. A lot of this is happening in your own mind. It wasn't really the other people. That's just essentially their birth story. They weren't really throwing it upon you, but you're just getting exposed to it, and it's hard to process. Now you're a very apparently a very competitive person. So how did you handle this new situation that was creating some mental stress or tension for you?
First and foremost, we used to have non-uniform day. This is an important thing. I hated new uniform day. It was the bit, genuinely, it's mad to think here. I remember the first one going, I don't want to go to school. And I love school because I just felt inferior. That's how much it had an impact. And obviously, as you grow up, you go, why was I thinking like that? And I changed as a person. My confidence drained from me every time there's a non-uniform day. Dreaded it to the point which is really good because I teach in a working class school now in Sittingbourne. Because again, we don't have a non-uniform day here at all whatsoever, and I think that is a really good policy because it's good to know that people empathise and realise the impact that can have on some families and the pressure that they can have, undue pressure on families and on kids, and it probably has an impact upon attendance. So we don't have it anymore, which is really good. I think that's really good. Obviously, there'd be other schools that want that, but I think that's that stops that bit that you've made reference to. But going back to the competition, what did really help me was the fact that I wasn't bad at football, soccer, and I'd come from being the captain of primary school and going into the secondary school. Now, one of the benefits of being in that area, being in the more affluent area, is there were more opportunities. So as soon as I started playing football, the kids and their parents would come up to me and go, hang on a minute, are you not playing for anyone? No. And I went, do you want to join our team? And I went, okay. And I joined the district. And within months of being at the new school, I was in 3 or 4 football teams that I'd never been to before. Within 2 years, I traveled to California to play in the Ken Ashton Cup in Mission Viejo. And from there, got scouted to play for Norwich City. So despite that initial feeling, and that did run through me till the way through to sixth form, the way I was able to overcome it was through sport. And that is, you can see that, some of the best footballers in this world come from really poor backgrounds because it's their way of fighting through the social system to get there. And I guess, that was my way. That was my identity. And again, I had an injury in my early 20s that took away my identity. And that has taken me probably 20 or so years to re-find a new identity because football and sport was so fulcrum. And that was almost the thing that that kind of protection layer against me being someone that didn't have money or didn't have that. You used that as your leverage and you really pushed hard. So it's really weird. But yeah, when you think about it, football was my biggest thing. And I was a bit of a loner at school because of it, but I really doubled down. And like you say, I am competitive, but not competitive against other people. I'm competitive a bit against myself. I want to be the best I can be. And I'm far more comfortable when I'm competing against myself than against other people.
Oh, very interesting. All right,
Yeah.
let me switch gears a little bit on you. Let me ask you about going back to when maybe you were a really young kid. And I want to find out if you had maybe a special piggy bank or savings jar that you used to maybe collect coins.
Well, we would have. My mum was good like that. Always little pennies here and there. And what it has is fallen down into the family to the point now where we do one for my brother's daughters, my nieces, and we're always putting little pennies or £2 or something like that, if there's any spare change around. And then one of the big things that we love as a family then, or as it, you get the chance to smash it open and then go down the bank and get the cash from it, and obviously reap the benefits from your patience by putting the pennies, and and it goes to show, particularly kids as well, the benefit of pennies and the compounding. There's a compounding kind of influence there, where those pennies do make pounds, those pounds do make £10, and before you know it, it can grow without you actually realise, and you go, wow, what have I got? And then it's obviously educating people what to do with that once you've got that level and that amount, because you don't want to squander it all straight away as soon as you've got it. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm so happy you mentioned that. That's what we like to tell little kids. There's a power in pennies, and they can grow.
There is a power in pennies.
And
absolutely.
If you're in the UK, they can grow into pounds.
yeah. But that's it. Yeah, cents and dollars. I should be speaking, and then pennies and pounds over here.
Well, that's okay. Actually, help us out. What is the equivalent of a penny in the UK? What would we call that? I know a pound is essentially the equal of $1, although they may have a different value.
A pound is a cent.
Okay.
And your dime is obviously 5 pennies, and no, it's 10 pennies, sorry. And your quarter, as you would say, is 25.
Okay.
25 penny equivalent. Yeah, so yeah.
All right, well, let me fast forward. Now, as an adult, do you still save change?
No, funny you should say that. I teach the kids, like, some people go on about, oh, money is the way, cash, you can save it and it's a better budgetary tool and all that stuff. And I don't tend to agree with that, because I think there's a mindset with it, because we've got these phones and they can get it to the number straight away. I think we need to use that, because so for example, if I go to, I don't know, if I go to a shop and something is £2.99, you will get that. Yeah, don't worry about the penny. All right, don't worry about the penny. Right, cool. So you just paid £2.99, but really you might as well just paid £3. But those pennies add up. When you're doing it through a budgetary app, those pennies are recorded on the app, and you can actually budget to the penny. Whereas with cash, you end up budgeting to the nearest pound or 50p, depending on which way you want to do it. And I think you can be. I don't think people say, oh, using switch cards and all that stuff, or MasterCards, is not a good way, because it just encourages to money. But no, with that, you can actually go down to the penny. You can actually budget down to the penny. And if you're disciplined enough and come out with the scores, you know how much you're going to spend on something, and you can total it up, and you can total it up to within £7.50 if that was the case. £12.50, £12.66, and at least you can do that, and there is no wastage. Whereas when you're doing the pennies, that becomes a wastage, and they more often than not does it get used. Sometimes people actually throw it away rather than put it away. And again, for me, I think, and I'm probably go against the tide here, but if you do it properly and you do it disciplined enough, it is actually better to go cashless than it is with cash.
Okay, so you're saying take advantage of technology can help you advance your financial your wellness and wealth.
Because people use it as an excuse. I think that's it. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. You've got an unbelievable tool that can get it down to the penny, so let's use it. Whereas when we get cash, it's to the pound or to the nearest 50p, possibly, if you can get that who wants to be carrying around that money anyway on them? And it's usually when you got the change, you end up giving it away anyway. Oh, you have that. And it's for people that want to budget. And it's not the way we're moving forward. So, you know, we are coming to a cashless society. So adapt. But my God, with computers, it can be even stronger. Again, it comes down to the person internalizing to themselves and telling them that it's actually easier this way, because it is. It's easier, quicker, and it'll give you the chance to concentrate on other things rather than count how many pennies you got. I can get on with the rest of my life rather than worrying about how many pennies I've got here and there.
That reminds me a little bit of the famous hockey player Wayne Gretzky, who always said, you know, they would ask him, what makes you great? You know, that you're not really that big, you're not really that fast. And he said, well, the one thing I think I do that separates me from the other players is I skate to where I think the puck is going to be. And so I think, you know, what you're sharing there is right on in terms of everything is moving towards more of a cashless society or approach to finance. And so you want to leverage these amazing tools, as you put it, to help you improve your financial health. I would think it would also be the same in soccer. Excuses. If you have Pele on your team, you want to get him the ball. Take advantage. Leverage a great score. So leverage these great
to
tools.
the English listeners. Sorry, I had to say that.
I'm trying to think. Was David Beckham, was he the great English footballer?
Yeah, he was. So funny enough, I was born in the same hospital as him.
Oh, really? How about that?
And we came from the same area. So it says a lot about that area that you fight out and you become. A lot of footballers come from that area, and there's pockets of the UK where working class kids come from certain areas. Yeah, David Beckham comes from a similar area.
Sure. You know, that's before we go on, that's one thing I wanted to say I really respect and admire about your story is that you took the adversities you had and you channeled them in a positive direction to continue to improve and evolve yourself, compete with yourself to try and become the best version of who you can be. Sometimes people go the other way, but you used it in a very positive way, and then more opportunity opened up for you, which it sounds like you capitalized on. So, you know, congratulations. Thank you for being a great role model.
Thank you. I mean, it's taken a while to get there and be comfortable with that. I just wish sometimes, you know, when your younger self, you could have said, like, just chill out. You know what I mean? Because I would have been competing with all sorts. Now I'm like, no, just competing against, because that's the only person you can control at the end of the day. And that's taken years of learning. If I can pass that on to kids earlier on, then and let them be more comfortable with themselves and making decisions as they grow up, then again, that's the difference I just want to make.
Yeah. Okay. That's outstanding. All right. Let me ask you this question. And there's a question I like to ask everybody. It's the question I asked myself before I launched into financial literacy. And that is, if you could only teach a child one money habit or one personal finance concept, what would it be, Darren?
Well, I don't know if have you heard of the marshmallow test?
I have. And I felt that I want to eat those marshmallows.
So that I think is one of the best tests that are out there. Yeah, because it reduces the amount of marshmallows that are being eaten by people. No, but seriously, it's discipline and sacrifice. So if you can make a sacrifice now, by doing that, you'll feel the benefits later down the line. And, you know, you don't need to have a marshmallow now. Why can't you have 10 marshmallows later? So people that are quite going, what's he on about now, about marshmallows? But essentially, if you save £1 now, you've got £10 later, you can do far more with that £10 than having that instant gratification. So it's deeper than all that. And so when it comes to investing, and particularly with kids, you can do more with £10 than you can do with £1 when it comes to investing. The percentage growth you can get with £10 is much more. But the issue is, what always puts people off is that all right, £10 or $10 in relation to £100 is not much, but you have to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. And I was able to start somewhere, and I have grown it. I'm not to where I want to be, but if I keep progressively getting there stage by stage, I will eventually get to the point where I will be comfortable. And people and kids or children need to realize that, because there is a huge benefit. And then I just think by being able to save, by being disciplined, it has so many other benefits, more than just money. Makes you a better person, doesn't make you so impulsive. It makes you draw back, it makes you reflect, it makes you look at other ways of doing things, which is important. If you don't have £100 now, how can I do the same thing with £10? And do you know what?
Question.
Do you know what? And do you know what? How much more interesting is it if you can do that thing with £10? Because it genuinely is. Because I had a conversation with someone the other day. I love to travel. And what I don't do is I don't stay in 5-star hotels. I usually do the Airbnb, and I usually rough it out. How many more interesting people have I met along the way? How many more places have I been able to go to because of that? Because if I went to a 5-star hotel, I probably wouldn't be able to go on holiday again for another 3 years. It's those things. I'm still getting the experience. I'm getting more experience. I'm just not getting the luxury experience with the accessories on top of it. But I'm fundamentally getting the same experience, which is really important. And that is what I want to share with the kids. Sometimes kids go, I can't do that because the accessory, this, that, and the other. But fundamentally, you can still do it. So I don't know what you're talking about. So they're the kind of things that are really important. That's what comes from that marshmallow test. And there's so many other fundamental things that you gain from having that level of discipline.
Yeah, just for the audience, the marshmallow test basically was studying delayed gratification, and what they concluded is that young kids, if they're able, and this applies to adults, if you're able to discipline yourself to delay gratification, you're probably going to have a lot more success in life. And I imagine it's true whether it's sports, whether it's finances, or anything. Discipline and delayed gratification are going to lead to bigger payoffs, whether it's travel or whatever it is.
Right.
All right. Before we let you go, Darren, we're going to need to get maybe one great story about your soccer experience, your soccer career. You were both a player and a coach, and you did this at very high levels. I think even with Chelsea. So give us a story. I'm sure everybody would love to hear a little bit about that life.
Well, I traveled. That's where this traveling thing has come from, because the first time I left the UK and Ireland I went to the States, California. So what a great start. And then 2 years later, I went to and played in the Dallas Cup, where listeners might know about that. And again, a lot of, high-level players have played in that. So, and then Germany. So travel just started. That was it. I don't know whether you know who he was or who he is. Sir Alex Ferguson, for those Man United fans, manager. I shook him by the hand when I got like a man of the match. Legendary Man United manager for 20 odd years. I got the chance to shake his hand. And obviously I've played at a lot of grounds across the country as well. And it has put me in good stead. It really has. And it's been an opportunity that, although I was released at 18 and then went and played semi-pro after that, I wouldn't swap it for anything. I would not swap it for anything. And the stories and the people you meet along the way are just almost second to none. And the benefit of teamwork, the benefit of work, high standards. And obviously then when I got the chance to coach at Chelsea with their ladies team and all that stuff, again, I felt that. Jose Mourinho, you do know Jose Mourinho, don't you? Everyone knows Jose Mourinho. I had the opportunity of being in the same training ground as him. Obviously, I was working with the ladies, but they had the same level of quality, sharing the same resources. And that is unbelievable. When you're at a point where you can't want for anything more, and you're giving that person or the people the best platform to work from, you can't beat that. And that you have standards, you raise your standards, and all the benefits of discipline come in at that stage, because it's important to be on time. All the basics done well really can, going back to finance, all the basics done well can reap huge rewards. Don't care who you are.
On that note, we're going to end. I want to thank you so much, Darren. Collins, for dropping all that knowledge and wisdom on us. I want to thank everybody out there in Sammy Land for being great supporters and champions of early age and family financial literacy. I want to wish everybody a Sammy-rific day. So long, everybody.
Brilliant. Take care. Thank you very much. Take care, guys.